Today we're going to be simplifying radical expressions. Use the product rule to multiply. We have the square root of 2 times the square root of 5, which is simply the square root of 10. The square root of 13 times the square root of y is the square root of 13y. The cube root of 9 times the cube root of 3 is the same as the cube root of 27, which is simply 3 because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. If we have the square root of 5 divided by x times the square root of y divided by 7, we simply multiply across on the top for 5y and across on the bottom to get 7x. So we have the square root of 5y divided by 7x. Using the quotient rule to simplify, we can write the square root of 4/25 as the square root of 4 over the square root of 25, which is simply 2/5. The next one is just like it, so we're going to write the square root of y over the square root of 16, and we know as we continue to simplify that the square root of 16 is 4. So we're left with the square root of y over 4. We have the cube root of 27 over the cube root of 64. Well, the cube root of 27 again is 3, and the cube root of 64 is 4. So our answer is 3/4. Simplifying square roots, we break them down and we have 25 times 3. Well, we know the square root of 25 is 5, so we're left with 5 times the square root of 3. The cube root of 48 is the same as the cube root of 8 times the cube root of 6. Cube root of 8 is 2, so we bring that 2 out and we have 2 times the cube root of 6 for our answer. The square root of 49x cubed can be written as the square root of 49x squared times the square root of x. We know the square root of 49x squared is simply 7x, and we have it times our square root of x. We're asked to divide the square root of 12 divided by the square root of 3 was the same as the square root of 12 divided by 3, which is 4, which we know the square root of 4 is 2. Now we have the square root of 100x divided by 2 times the radical 2. Think of this as a 1 out here. We can bring that 1/2 out, and we have that times the square root of 100x divided by 2, which is 50x. We can break that 50 down to 25 times 2, and we know the square root of 25 is 5, and we're left with the 2x on the inside radical. 5 times 1/2 is simply our 5/2, and we have it times the square root of 2x. 7 times the cube root of 24y to the 16th divided by the cube root of 2y. We can write as 7, and then we have 24y to the 16th divided by 2y, which reduces to 12 to the y to the 15th. Which 12 can be broken down as 4 times 3, and the square root of 4 is 2, so we can bring that 2 out. And we can also bring y to the 5th out. So when we do that, we're left with 7 times 2, which is 14, y to the 5th, the cube root of 3. Now we're switching over to the distance formula. When we have 2 points x1, y1, and x2, y2, we simply substitute them in this formula. So down here is an example. We have the point 2, -3, and 4, 5. So 2 minus 4 squared is a -2 squared. A -3 minus 5 more is a -8, and we square that. We end up on the inside with the square root of 68, which can be reduced to 2 times the square root of 17. The midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2 for the x value, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2 for the y value. So if we're given these 2 points, we take 5 and add the -1, which is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then we have the 7 plus the 0, and divided by 2 is 7/2. So the midpoint of those 2 points is 2 7/2.